Hi, I'm Teddy Burriss, and this course is all about using LinkedIn as a college student. So in this course, I'm going to actually share with you a lot of philosophies, a lot of best practices, a lot of tactics. But then we'll actually go into my LinkedIn account and I will show you in LinkedIn the things we talked about. So you'll be able to discover the LinkedIn interface, how to navigate around the many different areas of LinkedIn. We'll discover the benefits of college students using all of the primary areas of a LinkedIn profile and of LinkedIn in general. We'll explore and begin to understand the primary activities of using LinkedIn while in or exiting college. I'm going to introduce you to the tactics and philosophies of building a professional LinkedIn profile, building a meaningful LinkedIn network, and building and beginning to build your professional brand using LinkedIn. And we'll understand lots of different best practices that you need to use as a college student or a recent grad as you're using LinkedIn. So a little bit about me. I'm a LinkedIn strategist and trainer. What that means is I teach people in all types of roles and all types of situations how to use LinkedIn. And I've been teaching LinkedIn as a business tool and LinkedIn as a career tool since about 2009. I experiment with LinkedIn on a regular basis. And the reason why I do that is so I can look at all the different ways to use LinkedIn and to get real value from it so that then I can come back and share it with others. I'm on the internet. Find me as TL Burriss, RRISS. I'm on YouTube, Quora. Obviously, I'm on LinkedIn. I have my blogs and lots of content out there, all about using LinkedIn purposefully. Now, first of all, we need to be clear about what is LinkedIn before we actually start using LinkedIn. First of all, it is the #1 professional networking site on earth. And what that means is whether you're in business, you're in career transition, or you're starting a new career coming out of college, or even in college and trying to figure out what it is you want to do, networking through LinkedIn can be very beneficial. There are 855 million people on LinkedIn today, still roughly about 2 new members every second. There are about 60 million companies that are represented on LinkedIn, and that number continues to grow as well. Very important because the more people who are on LinkedIn, the more companies that are on LinkedIn, the more opportunities for you to find the people that you want to find who are in the different companies that you're interested in, so you can connect with them and look for ways to get into conversations with them, maybe even open the door for a career conversation. About 25% of all LinkedIn members show up every other week. Now that sounds like a low number, but think about this. If 25% of all the people that you know, all the people that you network with and you're connected on LinkedIn, if they show up every other week to a networking event for you or with you, that's pretty powerful. So that's actually a really good number in the big picture. LinkedIn is an important tool for you to use. As you start building your career, you're going to want to start building your professional presence, a real, meaningful, and relevant network, and you're going to want to start growing your reputation in context to what you are looking at doing today. Even if that changes over time, you'll change accordingly. And the right time to start using LinkedIn is now. If you have not already started doing it, now is the right time to start using LinkedIn. Building your presence, building your network, and building your reputation through conversations. So why should you consider using LinkedIn as a college student or as a recent grad? First of all, go back and re-look at the slide I just talked about what is LinkedIn. Really a powerful place to be. LinkedIn is rich in business professionals, business leaders, owners, and influencers, as well as hiring managers and recruiters. And it makes this is very useful for you in your career step to find career ideas, different ideas, even potentially business opportunities. If you build your LinkedIn profile correctly, you can show up not only in LinkedIn searches, but Google searches based on the words that you use on your LinkedIn profile. And this is really beneficial to help you more opportunities for you to be discovered, again, based on what your profile says. Also, when you build your LinkedIn profile out correctly, using the words that resonate with your target audience, that better helps you to be presented to your target audience who, again, may be looking for somebody like you and may be interested in a conversation with you regarding their hiring needs. Furthermore, if you build your LinkedIn network out correctly, then these people that you connect with and start to build some level of trust, respect, and like with, they can become a portal or a connection to even more LinkedIn connections who also may have a need for what you do or may know someone who does have a need for what you do. And the last big one is, if you properly engage and properly share content on LinkedIn, this engagement and this content can help amplify your brand and better position you as a candidate for hiring managers and recruiters who discover this content and realize that, wow, this guy or this lady talks this talk. They understand this, and that is something I'm looking for. Built correctly, your LinkedIn profile, your LinkedIn network, and your LinkedIn engagement can play a big role in moving you out of college into your first job and then subsequent jobs. First of all, let's be really clear about what is your target audience, because these are the people who are important to you in your journey. You got to figure this out before you go any further. What type of activity interests you today? What kind of a job? What kind of a business? Recruiters may not always be your target audience. They may be important in the role, but they're often not the most important first conversation or first connection. Who are the people in the roles, in the company types, and or in the industries and regions that interest you the most? These are your target audience. These are the people who can introduce you to ideas and conversations and maybe introduce you to opportunities. Now, additionally, who are the people who know these people? This is what's referred to as influencers. You got to be really clear about who are the influencers who can introduce you to your target audience. Who is your target audience? And by being clear about these two people, when you're using LinkedIn to build your LinkedIn profile, build your LinkedIn network, and start engaging and sharing content, you know who you're speaking to every step of the way. So focus on knowing who these are, because this will make a huge difference for you, because you're not using LinkedIn to connect and engage with everyone. You're using LinkedIn purposefully to connect and engage with your target audience, the people who can help you find opportunities. Now, additionally, I get asked this question all the time. Teddy, I haven't had a job. I don't have a job, so what can I be using LinkedIn for? So let's talk about this a little bit, because this is important. Because first and foremost, not having a job does not preclude you from making a statement as to who you are and what you do or want to do. Now, what have you learned? Now, maybe you've had some very basic jobs. Maybe you were a barista somewhere and you went off and studied psychology. Maybe you mowed grass. Maybe you did babysitting. You got to think about all of those different jobs. What did you learn? How did you grow? What are you leaning towards? Another big one. Not what job do you want, but what are you thinking about? What idea comes to mind? Or maybe what ideas come to mind? Because this could be what you talk about. This could be what you refer to in not only different parts of your LinkedIn profile, such as your about section and experience section and skills, but it also could be what you talk about in context to the content you engage on or the content you share. And if that adjusts and ebbs and flows, that's okay. It's called life. But you got to start somewhere. Also, what skills have you developed? Have you gotten good with leadership skills? Have you gotten good with project management skills? Have you gotten good with time management skills? What skills are you developing that you can refer to and maybe even add to your LinkedIn profile? What volunteer experience have you had? Did you do have volunteer experience in your community? Maybe a youth group, maybe the YMCA, maybe you did, maybe something related to a church activity or Boy Scouts, et cetera, et cetera. What volunteer experiences do you have while you were in college? Did you participate in? And furthermore, how did you grow in those different experiences? What one-off courses or LinkedIn Learning or MOOC classes have you taken that has helped you to grow? Maybe you refer to those in certificates and courses, et cetera, et cetera. Now, what has the education that you've had so far, what has it done to influence you in the context of your journey? What has this education done to influence you to think in this way or look at these types of opportunities? As well as what's the education in general? Are you ready to list your master's or your bachelor, et cetera, so you can populate the education experience in different ways? And who have you learned new ideas from? And what have you learned? What are these new ideas? Again, all of these questions and many more could be used to help you come up with the content that you're going to put on your LinkedIn profile. And maybe even different types of content or stories or articles or videos that you share in context to the space or the way you're leaning today for a job. Now, to get started is really easy. Not difficult to do at all. I recommend, by the way, you use Google Chrome or Firefox. Don't use, in my opinion, don't use, what's it called, Windows or Microsoft Edge, and don't use Safari. For me, generally, Chrome works the best. Go to LinkedIn.com if you've not already started and go and sign up and create an account. Use your personal email address. You can add your school email address later. You can add a business email address, but always have your primary, I'm never going to lose it, personal email address on your LinkedIn account. Use a unique password. Please do not use the same password you use for your bank account, because if I hack your LinkedIn account, the very next thing I'm going to do is use that password and that email address and try to find you on a bank somewhere. I, by the way, recommend using a password management tool like LastPass. Again, use your personal email address, use a really bizarre password, and never lose that email address or access to it, and never let your LastPass account get hijacked by anybody. Follow the prompts when you create your LinkedIn account to do the basics. Get the basics in place. You can always revise it and change it and update it later on. And then once you've got the basics in place, then you can come back here and follow more of the ideas I share with you. Or better than that, you can go look for my other course on how to build a LinkedIn profile as a college student and really get some detailed ideas on how to build the right LinkedIn profile. By the way, there's a couple other things that are important to do. Read the LinkedIn user agreement. Read the LinkedIn privacy statement. Go review your settings and privacy within LinkedIn. It's under me and it says settings and privacy. You want to review all of that so you're clear about how LinkedIn is using your data. You're clear about how they're using your information. You're clear about, the user agreements. You don't do something ridiculous. And furthermore, you understand the settings and privacy so that you can make the best decisions for you as to how to have those set up. And by the way, one of the things I recommend is I turn off all email notifications. I don't need that stuff because I'm in LinkedIn every day, and everything that those emails want to tell me, they'll show up either under my network or on notifications. Let's talk about the key areas of LinkedIn. It absolutely starts with your LinkedIn profile. That's where this journey begins. But as you're building your LinkedIn profile, you're going to want to understand lots of other areas of LinkedIn. You're going to want to understand networking and LinkedIn messaging. You're going to want to understand content and engagement and all the different ways you can do that. You're going to want to learn and practice the search tactics, how to use LinkedIn search. You're going to want to understand how to use company pages in your career journey. You're going to want to understand maybe the benefit of LinkedIn groups, and we'll talk about that. And maybe you're also going to want to understand LinkedIn creator mode, articles and newsletters, LinkedIn Live, LinkedIn audio, et cetera, because it may be something that you're interested in doing. All right, I'm going to hand you a lot of best practices in 3 different areas. So here we go with the first set of best practices related to building a LinkedIn profile. By the way, repeat what I said earlier. Use the information, use the experiences, use the skills, and use all the information you have available to you today. And if that's not as much as you'd like to have, that's okay. Be patient. More will come as your career grows. And here's another key point. Your LinkedIn profile you should consider it more as a brochure than a resume. Your resume is nothing more than your ongoing obituary. People don't want to read obituaries. They want to read brochures. Think brochure. Here's the first big best practice. Everyone needs a profile picture. So when you build your LinkedIn profile, put a good picture of you smiling on your LinkedIn profile. A picture of you, not a picture of you and your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your dog. Number 2, use your headline to tell your target audience what you could do for them. I always say, write it in the first person as if you are doing it. No one cares that you're not getting paid to do it today. Tell me who you are. If you're striving to be a project manager, then call yourself a project manager. And then in the story, you can talk about the level of skills that you have as a project manager. But call yourself a project manager. Number 3, ensure your contact information is up to date and that it's working, that it's accurate. So put your email address and test to make it right. Put your phone number, test to make sure your voicemail is not full and your cell phone's not ignoring messages because the voicemail is full. If you have a portfolio, on a website or on GitHub or something like that, make sure the URL you put in there is accurate and works. Make sure people can get to you with the contact information you provide. And tell highly relevant stories in your about section. Talk about what you did, what you can do, what you learned to do. Talk about your accomplishments, et cetera, in the context of who you are. And maybe you don't have a whole lot of stories. That's okay. Come up with 1 or 2 stories that are relevant and go there. And in time, you have more and more stories that are more and more relevant. And the last one in this first part is use the featured section to showcase content that can amplify your brand. Maybe there's a video of you doing something that's relevant to what you do. Maybe there's an article that was written. Maybe you were interviewed or you're on a podcast. Whatever you can come up with. Maybe there's a certificate that's relevant to the context of the example I'm using, project management. You can put that certificate in your featured section. But put content today that you have available, and as time goes on, you'll have more and more available. Here's part 2. Remember I said earlier, LinkedIn profile is more of a brochure than it is a resume. Let your experience section showcase your growth to who you are today. Again, maybe you don't have a lot. Go with what you have. Dig deep. Look in your past. Look at what you did where you grew or developed or you practice and train and use skills that are relevant to what you want to do today. You can always adjust it later. In your skills section where you can have 50 skill words or phrases, put the most relevant and meaningful skills in there. And that's okay if the best skills you have is Microsoft Office and Word and Excel, communications, leadership, team building, mentoring. Come up with them. Dig deep. You'll find you have way more skills that are relevant to what you want to do than you have imagined. If you would just stop and get out of your head trash and just look at yourself and ask this question, what have I done? And then tell those stories to yourself out loud, and you'll pick up a skill here. You'll pick up a skill here, et cetera, et cetera. All the content you put on your LinkedIn profile needs to be relevant or shows professional growth to who you are today. If you've got experiences in the past where you learned nothing, you developed in no way at all, maybe you want to leave that off your LinkedIn profile because you don't want to send the viewer down an irrelevant rabbit hole. Don't put that irrelevant content on your LinkedIn profile. And by the way, spell check and grammar check, absolutely critical. I use Grammarly. I should be paying for Grammarly because it's working really, really hard for me. But I try really, really hard to make sure I never get listed as a project manger or a professional public relations person. Think of those mistakes. Here's a big LinkedIn profile tip. Don't be in a rush. You don't need to replicate what everybody else is doing on LinkedIn because all those other people probably have decades of content. Do not rush this. It's a journey. Enjoy the journey along the way. And as you discover something new, you learn something new, you pick up a new skill, you have a new experience, then you'll want to stop and add the relevant ones to your LinkedIn profile. But don't box yourself in today in a specific role or industry unless you are 100% certain that is where you want to be. And if you're clear about that, it's okay. But if you're not 100% clear, then back off a little bit and don't be so deliberate about stating, I am this, if you're not 100% sure about it. And again, as you grow, as you experience, as you develop, come back and update your LinkedIn profile and show that in all the different areas that you can show it, whether it's in skills, experience, volunteering, courses, certifications, licenses, etc., etc. All right, let's talk about some best practices for networking on LinkedIn. Here's the first part. Focus on searching for and finding ways to connect with your target audience and their influencers. That's your focus. That's your goal. You do not want to be looking for every Tom, Dick, Harry, and Betty on LinkedIn. Look for the people who are important to you in your journey. And furthermore, as I said earlier, the influencers of your target audience are equally important, sometimes more important to connect with on LinkedIn, because sometimes based on the role or the industry, your target audience may not be on LinkedIn, but their influencers are. So look for them as well, because those, again, are the people who can introduce you to your target audience. Be willing to accept invites from others along the way, others that you can help, or maybe you're just looking for ideas. It's called networking for mutual benefit. Don't make it all about you. And don't send a LinkedIn invite to anyone who doesn't know you yet. There are better ways of doing that, and we talk about that as we move forward. And always, when you do send a LinkedIn invite, include a personal note. Always. This is deliberate and purposeful. You do not want to send an invite to someone without telling them who you are and why you want to connect with them. Here's part 2 of networking best practices. Once you connect, you want to find a way to engage with your new connection. Find a way to engage with the people who are the most relevant to your goals and engage them at a higher level. Maybe a phone call, maybe an email address, maybe walk down the hall or go down the street and find them and say hi to them in person. But you want to connect and engage, not just simply connect. And make the conversation all about your new connection until they give you permission to make it about you. And if you do that right, they'll give you permission. But it's really critical. Make that conversation about them first and foremost. And you want to manage your LinkedIn invites. You don't want to let them get out of hand. If you send out a bunch of invites and they haven't been accepted in a month, withdraw them. And if you got a bunch of invites that came into you and you haven't accepted them, then go through them and figure out why you didn't accept them. You either hit the ignore button to get rid of them, or you find a way and you vet them and you hit the accept button and then take them through the process of engaging. Don't let those pile up. It's painful. And don't get rambunctious with your LinkedIn invites and start sending out invites with reckless abandon. Use the process. Stick to the process. Find the right people. Find a way to get introduced to them. Find a way to bump into them. Where relevant, appropriate, send them an invite and then work the process. And number 5, keep your LinkedIn network growing every day. I use this phrase, make a new connection every day. It's okay if you make 3 or 4, but take them through the process. But you don't want to just connect with a few and then give it up. You want to keep connecting because the real magic might be in that next connection. Here's a big networking tip that's important. Start by connecting with people that you know already. Connect with your family, your friends, your barista, your barmaid, your neighbors, your professors, your fellow students, etc., etc., etc. Connect with people you already know. And then as you can, when you get an opportunity to talk with them, what you want to do is ask them, who do they know that you should connect with next? Who do they know that you should get to know? And always ask for introductions. If someone says to you, you need to connect with this dude named Teddy Burriss, then you need to tell that person or ask that person, would you do me a huge favor? Would you introduce me to Teddy? Because introductions is how this really works the best. Let's talk about engagement. Here's part one of LinkedIn engagement best practices. Number one is never do, say, or engage in any way that you don't want to be seen, heard, or perceived of in life. If you're about ready to post something or share something or engage on something, you go, well, should I really do that? The moment you second guess yourself means you should get rid of it. But you never want to say, do, or engage, share, engage, post, whatever, anything that could diminish your brand. That is very dangerous as you're using LinkedIn or social media in general. Follow the 90-10 rule. 90% of the content that you share on LinkedIn should not be about you at all. It needs to be highly relevant to you, maybe relevant to the people that you want to have a conversation with, relevant to the industry you're looking at, the type of work you're looking at, et cetera, but it can't be about you. See this all the time with business professionals and companies where they think the content needs to be all about them, and that's failure. And never post on LinkedIn more than once a day. That's all you need to do. And by the way, what you really want to do is, here's the one, let's see, here it is, number 5. You want to engage more often than you share. So if you post a piece of content once a day, engage 3 or 4 times a day. Engage is just a conversation. Walk away from the like button. Just get into conversations. And if you are going to share content, you want to share diverse content, because that will get you the greatest value, because you never know what kind of content your LinkedIn network wants to see. So if you're always just sharing blog posts, you may turn off people because they're not interested in reading blog posts. Throw in a meme, throw in a video, throw in an article to other content, etc., etc. Part 2. There's nothing wrong with being a little personal. Nothing wrong with being a little humorous. Just don't do it often. Do it every now and then. Let people discover who you are as a human, because people work with other humans. They want to get to know you a little bit. Pay attention to what posts you share your target audience enjoys. And who is it? Who's that person to comment on? Oh my golly, he's a hiring manager for company XYZ. Maybe I should say hello to him. Minimize the like button. Comments are much more powerful for building your brand. And people want to hear your thoughts and context to the content you're engaging on. Never hijack a post with self-centered comments. You don't want to be discovered as that guy. Engage on content in context to what it's all about. Check your grammar and your spell check as well when you're commenting and posting. Again, you don't want to show up as someone who they think you're really, really good, but you totally misspelled a word that you shouldn't have misspelled, and it made it for an ugly post. Here's a big engagement tip. Diverse content, images, videos, articles, links to third-party content, YouTube videos, and your original content. Mix it up, because you don't know, again, we talked about this earlier, what kind of content will resonate with different people that you're connecting with. So give different types of content. Again, if you share the same stuff over and over and over again, they will get bored of it and they'll eventually walk away from you. LinkedIn search, really a powerful tool, and the best way to figure out how to use it is to start experimenting with it. But let me give you some best practices. Number 1, focus your search on your target audience and their influencers. Don't go down a rabbit hole and looking for people who are irrelevant to your journey. Practice using all the LinkedIn search filters. Figure out what they all mean and how they work for you, because you'll get better at doing it the more you practice. Focus on driving your list down to what Seth Godin refers to as your smallest viable audience. It's the best way to work a search list. If it's only 100 people. If you've got 5,000 people on your search list, you'll never get through that. It's a waste of time. Drive it down to something small and then keep track of what search filters you use so you can alter them a little bit the next time. Experiment with Boolean search tools. I'll give you a link to that later on. Experiment with using Boolean search so you can have way more powerful search results. And LinkedIn search is not just for LinkedIn members. It can also be used to finding, posts and companies and services and events and courses, on and on and on. So experiment with it way beyond just looking for people. A couple more LinkedIn search best practices. Never click on content in a LinkedIn search results. Never. Right click on it and open it in a new tab. That way you keep your search results clean and unaltered, and then you jump over to another tab and you work some of those results you found, close those tabs down, come back to your search results window and work a few more. Experiment using Google site search. This is really powerful. You do a Google site search and you can really narrow down with way more elaborate and complex Boolean search strings. And by doing that, you will help what's it called? Offset that what's called the commercial use limit. Which, if you're not paying for LinkedIn, it'll really be painful. Use Google search to offset that. Periodically, also, instead of just using LinkedIn search, look at who viewed your LinkedIn profile and who are your followers. Also look at people also viewed section. Often on people's LinkedIn profiles, you'll see a column, it's usually 5 to 10 names, of people also viewed these people. They may be someone who's relevant to the person you're looking at, and they may be worth considering or evaluating as well. And if you're serious about getting value from LinkedIn search, then consider subscribing to Business Premium or Sales Navigator. Those are not inexpensive, but they offer a lot of value if you're really serious about prospecting on LinkedIn. LinkedIn company pages. Now, typically I would be sharing this with business professionals and I would be sharing with them how to use a company page to promote their brand. But I'm going to change it up and help you look at using company pages for your research. Follow companies that are of interest to you. Follow, the companies that you think you may want to look for a job there. And then review the people who work for those companies and maybe work in the specific department or sandbox that you're interested in. Review the content from the company page. Review the content from these individuals that are of interest to you. Maybe engage on some of it where relevant and appropriate. Review the company website, not just their company page. And don't just look at the jobs in their About Us page. Look deeper. Look through different areas of the website for articles and stories and press releases, et cetera, so you can uncover new ideas and different perspectives of that company that most people wouldn't discover because they didn't do enough research. And by the way, track their job openings even if they're not relevant to you. Because if there's a lot of job openings going on in a particular area, there may be a bigger story around that company that's worth you understanding because it could be relevant. All right, LinkedIn groups. This one here is tough because I'm not a huge fan of LinkedIn groups. However, you may want to join LinkedIn groups where your target audience hangs out. So look for groups that are relevant to the industry you're interested in. Look for groups that are relevant to the service or the program or the type of work you do, and find people in those groups. Don't spend a whole lot of time posting content in LinkedIn groups. It's generally not worth doing for the most part. Now, if a LinkedIn group also, if you discover that it's irrelevant or dead, just leave it. There's no harm, no foul. Hit the leave button and go do other things. Pay attention in the group to the group members. Pay attention to who's posting content. Maybe that person is someone you want to have a conversation with. Your target audience or influencers are hopefully in that group. And if not, again, you're in the wrong group. And you could engage on relevant content in those groups. I wouldn't engage on solicitation content or promotional content, but maybe someone posted a story that's relevant to that industry or a story that's relevant to that role. And that may be worth looking at and reading and consuming and then commenting in a meaningful way. Here's part 2 of group best practices. Use the messaging feature of LinkedIn groups to engage directly with relevant members. So if you find a member of that group that you're not connected with and they work in an organization in a role that's of interest to you, you could use the messaging tool to send that individual message and ask them if they'd be open to a conversation as you are on your journey to learn more about that company and learn more about their work. You can engage directly with LinkedIn group members who've shown up with content. So if they're sharing content or they're engaging content, then you can engage with them, be a part of the conversation. Read the group rules so you don't make a dumb mistake and you play appropriately in someone else's group. Use LinkedIn groups predominantly to do research, to find the humans that you want to have a conversation with. And you can be in 100 LinkedIn groups. Don't. Nobody ever gets value out of 100 groups. Be in 10 or 15, work them, get value from them or not, get out of them, and then go find 10 or 15 more. It's the last big piece of this presentation, that is LinkedIn Creator Mode. This is a whole nother tool that LinkedIn's been developing lately for people who like to create content. So if you like to do videos, you could do LinkedIn Live videos through Creator Mode. If you like to do audio, sort of like the podcast, it works sort of like Clubhouse works. Then maybe like Creator Modes work for you. If you like to if you want people to follow you and you don't want them to connect with you, then creator mode may be beneficial. But if you're early or fairly new on LinkedIn, I wouldn't go there. I'd stay and leave my connect button as the primary. Use LinkedIn Creator Hub to develop your creator skills. It's a great community to be a part of if you want to be a content creator. And by the way, it'll also adjust your LinkedIn profile. It'll showcase your features section better and your activity section better if you are a creator. But do not consider using creator mode if you're not interested in being a creator. If you're not interested in doing live videos or live audios, you're not interested in writing articles, etc., I wouldn't use creator mode. Now, at this point, I'm going to go into LinkedIn and I'm going to talk about some LinkedIn profile ideas. I'm going to talk about some networking ideas. I'm going to talk about LinkedIn engagement ideas from my LinkedIn profile. Hang on while I get that set up.